Good morning and welcome to the Saturday edition of my live comments. Today we will talk about how the world would be after 2 decades. Would the year 2030 see the same world in which we are living? Or would that world be materially, visibly different? And in case it's different, what would cause it to be different? You see, change is a law of nature, and change would happen whether we like it or we don't like it. Many times, change is cataclysmic and it's difficult to contemplate what sort of change would be there. But the trends show the outcome very often. And there are four mega trends that tell us what the world would be in 2030. You see, we have seen that the demand of food is rising by 35% and water by 40%. So you can well imagine the world at that time. And if we look at the mega trends, we can see that the sort of the people who live at that time would essentially be identical with a large impact on society, healthcare, government, and resources. So the mega trends that mark the year 2030, that's 23 years from now, are the first is the individual empowerment. In the next 15 to 20 years, some organizations like Bill Gates or the World Bank and the WHO will lift millions of the people out of poverty. And majority of the people will not be as impoverished as today. That is not to say that the poverty will be eliminated, but the context of poverty would change. The new wealth will produce millions more empowered individuals who will add to both local and national economies. And this impact would be seen especially in Africa, because the aim of these organizations is to empower those people which they badly need. They have resources. They need healthcare and they need education, and that is being provided to them. These empowered people, unfortunately, there's a negative side to it. When these people are empowered, they will have greater access to lethal weapons and networks, which is a capability today controlled by a few countries, the so-called nuclear club. But anyway, the individual empowerment is one of the major signs you would see in 2013. That's a trend. The second is the diffusion of power. As I have already been saying, today the world is essentially unipolar with USA, and now it's becoming tripolar. USA, Europe on one side, Asia, when I call of Asia, I don't mean South Asia, China and Russia, and the third is South Asia and Africa, headed by Japan and India and Israel. So these tripolar worlds would diffuse the power structure of the world. China alone will have probably the largest economy, surpassing USA, even before 2030. India would be the second largest economy, if not the first. Maybe they are the parallel economies. There shall be a tectonic shift of power, and the health of the global economy shall be linked not to USA, not to Europe, but to India, China, Brazil, South Africa, and Korea. These are going to be the power superstructures of the world. In other words, the people won't keep a country powerful if others are not adept at connecting data and resources. And what's the third pattern? That's very interesting, There's a demographic pattern would change. Widespread aging, falling fertility, and urbanization, rapid urbanization, will lead to a dramatic different world. What we expect is that 8.3 billion people would be there, and the human civilization will be much older and much more focused on city life. Infrastructure would improve, and our level of innovation and output will slow down without younger workers. There'll be acute shortage of the younger workers. The aging countries will face an uphill task in maintaining their living standards, and here is the countries like India, which have a larger younger generation, will stand to benefit. It is quite possible that in the next several decades, the humanity might generate more urban construction than it has ever done in its history till today. And as I said earlier, the most important mega trend is growing demand for food, water, and energy. As I said just now, the demand for food would increase by 35%, water by 40%, and energy by 50%. So what happens? The regions with extreme weather patterns, like rain-soaked Singapore or muggy Mumbai, will get extreme due to effects of the climate change. Dry areas of North America and US Southwest will be the effects of diminished precipitation, especially made harder. We have sufficient resources to avoid energy crisis and energy capacity. But whether these sources are utilized or not is a second question. The new resources would need fracking and renewable energy, especially tidal energy and geothermal energy. But the great growing demand for food, water, and energy would be the hallmark of the coming 3 decades. Now, what sort of the world it would be? You would see, it's difficult to predict. But again, as I said just now, the trends show a clear picture. And the first thing I visualize is that all products will become similar. You won't own anything. You would not have a car. You would not have a house. You would not have any appliances. What will happen is that by the year 2030, when the inhabitants have cracked down clean energy and they borrow the energy on demand, the service like Uber would make maintaining a car a luxury which nobody can afford, especially because of the congestion in the cities. So the sense of property shall change, and when you can get everything on demand, you won't need to own it. The possession would be replaced, and the service provider will become more important. Then there'll be a global price on carbon. As today, there's a global price on gold or oil. In 2030, you would see that the main thing would be carbon. China has already started this year the market for trading carbon. And that's going to happen all over. The third is, as I said, US dominance is over. A handful of global powers would be there. uh, and I can visualize, as I said earlier, tripolar world. US still would not be over, but the US and the Europe would be one power, opposed or rather counterbalanced by India, South Africa, Japan, Israel on the second, China, Russia on the other. So this would make things much different. And in this group, the first group, the US and Europe, it will be Germany which will be the outstanding country, not the US. The leader would be Germany on their side. India and Japan might share the leadership in the second block, and China and Russia would share in the third block. Another thing that I foresee is likely to happen is farewell to hospitals. It will be hospitals. Each home will have the same capacity because of the remote medical facilities, remote surgery, robotic surgery. You won't have to go to the hospitals. Nation states has come back. And the same would happen in the hospitals. You would see that the care in the home is much better. It will be personalized. It will be preventive. And organs, scalpels would be out, basically. You might have tiny robotic tubes and bioprinted organs. You need a new replacement. There is a robotic tube. You insert, open the knee, insert it, close it down, tape it over, and you are okay. The glues have come, as I told you last time. And another thing, which is a bad news for the people who are meat lovers, but a good news for the vegetarians. We will be eating meat much less. And meat would be a treat rather than a staple diet. It won't be big agriculture, a local artisans. It would be a convenience food redesigned to be healthier and less harmful to the environment. It might be manufactured in the factories. It might be in the shape of pills, whatever. But the food as we eat today would not be there. It would be mostly manufactured, and this farm food would be more of a delicacy, more like what we have, say, when the people say today caviar, at that time they might say a cake or a pastry. And then, another thing which is a cultural issue, the values that have built the West will be at the breaking point. They will not be there. You would see the checks and balances, for example, which mark the largest democracy in the world, that's the USA. Those would not be there. Mostly either it shall be the city-states and as a matter of fact, what I foresee is it shall not be the countries which shall be the deciding factor, it shall be the cities. Country would be only as a projection and a combination of those cities, because cities would be much more important. They would be the base of all economy and political life. And another thing, interplanetary travel would be very common and quite possible. There might be a lot of emigration to the red planet. You will possibly discover the presence of alien life, and possibly some Columbus would go and find a way to live over there and fight over there. And the denizens of this world would make a beeline to the Mars, because the population here would be make the living so congested that the free spaces in Mars might be much more attractive. These are the thoughts which come to my mind and which show that 2030s would be a year that would change the very structure of this way we live today, the systemic change and attitudes would change. Family would not be what it is today. As a matter of fact, it will become much more individualistic world. And possibly, the brave new world visualized by Huxley, changed by the progress in nanotechnology, in robotics, would change this world out of imagination. But these trends and this picture which I have described today, you would find would be very much present. And 23 years is not far off. If you preserve the video for your coming generation, and if you are young for your old age, you would see the veracity of what I'm saying. And this would be a word which would ethically be better, possibly, for the individual development much better, and the breakdown of the superstructure built on religion would be over. Politically more diffused, genetically more diffused. This is a word which will be individually centric in some parts, and maybe if the situation changes, very dictatorial in the other aspect. Well, this is sufficient food for you to contemplate this weekend, and we meet on Monday again. Thank you.